Karstie.
Hi, I'm Karstie from Brewster. I've been going to camp for 4 years now, and for the past 4 years I've been blessed with some pretty amazing counselors. People that have prayed over me, challenged me in my faith, and kept in touch with me all year long. And about 6 months ago, I found out that my counselors weren't going to be there this year for a couple different reasons, and I was really disappointed. And I didn't think God could meet my need for Christian encouragement at camp. I was pretty let down. So I decided my purpose at camp was to be a light to others. I decided. But I underestimated God's ability to care for me. And I also told God what my plan was for camp, and that's not how things work. So, yeah. Got to camp, leaning on my own plans. I was ready to go forward with just being an encouragement and everything. I didn't ask God what he might do for me and my faith at camp. I thought that part of camp was gone for me. First day of camp, I went up to the lake and had devotions, and I was reminded of the Jeremiah passage that says, "For I know, God knows, the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a future and a hope." And I was like, okay, God's got plans. So God had a plan for me at camp, and it was not only to encourage others in their walk, but to renew mine. He blessed me with new counselors, new Christian friends, and a heart that felt his peace while worshiping. A heart open to listen to his heart, and a spirit of trust. This past week after camp, I've been thinking a lot about my future after high school, and there's a lot of opportunity for fear in that. But God's faithfully reminded me of another verse I read during camp, 1 John 4:18. "There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear." And that has just been such a blessing to me this week. And every time I get anxious and nervous about the future, I come back to that verse. Perfect love drives out fear. Just one more reminder to trust God. We don't have to fear. He's got a plan. Trust him. I want to finish with this verse I read in Galatians 2:20. "I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who gave himself for me." That's my prayer for everybody here, that when we go home today, we're going to live by faith and trust that he's got plans. It's God's plans, not our own, not our life, but Christ's.
My name is Isaac Baker. I've been going to camp for 4 years now. Throughout the years, I've made many relationships with people that have had a huge impact on my life and my faith, including her. When I came to camp this year, I definitely was a little depressed when I heard that almost none of these people were coming to camp this year. So I came to camp saying that my goal would be to be what those counselors were to me, to the other campers. My just kind of incorporates my life verse, Matthew 5:16, "Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and praise your heavenly Father." That was my goal for the week. I'll let you say it. This is my goal. Coming into camp, I was struggling with incorporating God into my daily life. So many times I would feel convicted and talk with a friend, saying that we were going to start reading our Bible, and yet we would always find anything, seriously anything else that we do that had no remaining value. One verse that definitely spoke to me earlier on in the week when we had devotions was Proverbs 18:1. "He who willfully separates and estranges himself from God seeks his own desire and pretext to break out against all wise and sound judgment." This is after we were talking about how we're putting other things, and we open up to this random verse in the Bible. We literally got slapped in the face. Made me realize all the things that I had been putting in front of my faith. I also had a big thing about shame and guilt, which Nicole, answered, front row, helped me a lot with. And that was also becoming like a huge excuse, saying that I was too ashamed to pray and just talk to God when I need something. She just helped me a ton, just realizing the difference between guilt and shame, and how guilt is seeing what's wrong and working on bettering yourself, while shame is the lie that you are doing something wrong and you will never be able to better yourself. Greg, he's the pastor from Orville, throughout the entire week sitting there, every time someone says fear, he goes, "Fear, he's a liar," which helped me throughout this week, and still in the first week after Camp Funknelly. And also, just like to go along with just putting other things in front of just Christ and reading and seeking Him. James 1:12, blessed is the man who is patient under trial and stands up under temptation. For when he has stood the test and been approved, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love Him. Consider it wholly joyful, my brethren, whenever you are enveloped in or encounter trials of any sort or fall into various temptations. Be assured and understand that the trial and proving of your faith brings out endurance and steadfastness and patience. I don't know for the rest of you guys, that's so hard for me. How the heck am I supposed to find joy in being tempted when it seems like I fail every single temptation? This verse should also be a huge promise and comfort to us, though. This year has ended being the best year of camp so far. I had Mac as a counselor, I had Greg, I had Annie, best counselor so far. No offense, Mac. I've learned so much throughout the week. I'm now praying daily for God to help me with my guilt and shame, and trying as hard as it is to find it joy when tested, and only with God and His Word will I be able to find peace and overcome these trials.